Good day traders, welcome to the RMDTRADER weekly market fix. Last week saw US markets selling off, which is of course for those following our videos exactly what we have been expecting. We've also seen strong breakouts on some of our Forex setups, which along with Bitcoin and gold we will have a closer look at this week. So please stay tuned. Let's kick off this week by having a look at the NASDAQ, and actually this is the same for the other US indices as well. So we've pointed out the fact that we are in a bearish trend on the indices, and especially looking at the NASDAQ and also in the Dow, the US30, we have a clear head and shoulders pattern in play. We've continued to see price rejecting the various levels of resistance, with price currently rejecting the daily 50 SMA, also now with the daily 21 EMA pointing downwards. We see that the price also now headed back below the yearly S1 pivot. For this week, we of course have our new weekly pivot at 13,650, which is not yet tested. So for this week, it's possible that we might see a correction back towards this area, perhaps a bit higher towards the weekly R1 at about 13,955. So somewhere in this area might be the possible retest area. Overall, the next bearish target would be at 12,585, and that is closer towards the slanted head and shoulders neckline, and of course one of the previous areas of major support. Just briefly looking at the US30, this is the Dow, we can see something very similar. We can see on Friday we had a very aggressive sell-off, but with the weekly pivot still untested for this week. So in the event of a correction, this is the area we will want to keep an eye out for. And also in terms of a bearish target, we can see we have this monthly S1 at 32,950. That is a clear target at this stage. Also looking now at gold, we'll see that gold has also corrected back towards this daily 50 SMA and also back into its previous area of consolidation. Overall, I believe we are still in a very clearly defined bullish trend, and I expect price to continue to make higher lows, meaning we are not looking to take out these lows, but rather to turn and continue higher again before we take out those lows. So for this week, possible target and reversal area would be this area at 1,905. This is our weekly S1 pivot, and then of course once we get back above our weekly pivot at 1,950, that will then possibly give us the opportunity to get higher again with a new high, and that will give us a target area somewhere between our weekly R2 at about 2025 and 2040. Just before we go to our Forex pairs, let's have a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin has also seen some sellers continuing to drive price lower, with that daily 21 EMA having been rejected. We haven't really put in a new swing low as of last week, and we can see we have our monthly S1 pivot at 39,050 offering some support. So if we do manage to break below that, I believe there's an interim short target, which is also a diagonal area of support at the weekly S1 at 37,860. And of course, anything below that would of course be quite bearish, and would probably see price continuing to move lower towards our yearly S1, which is sitting down there at 26,000. In terms of a correction and a move higher, we have our yearly 365 moving average up here at our weekly R2, and that is at 44,900. So this area would of course offer strong resistance should price make a short rally and we see the sellers stepping back in. In terms of our Forex, I'd like to look at the EURUSD. The EURUSD is still also in a bearish trend. We've also seen a rejection from our yearly S1 last week as well as the week before. So that leads me to conclude that there's a higher probability that we will continue to see price moving lower, with the week's target down here at the week monthly S2 at 1.060. That's also where we have some diagonal support. And of course, in terms of a possible correction, we have our weekly pivot at 1.083, not yet tested. So it's possible that we see a brief pullback either towards this area or perhaps even back towards this area of our yearly S1 before we see price continuing lower. To conclude for this week, let's have a look at the USDZAR. And we've previously pointed this out, but this 10-year diagonal was a very important and a very strong area of support. And after we had this double bottom area, we clearly had a very aggressive breakout and a rally following onto that. And we can see that price has recovered all the way back towards this area that we last saw at the beginning of March. And for this week, it's quite likely that we'll first perhaps see a bit of a correction. And in terms of areas of support, we have our weekly S1 converging of that monthly pivot at 1487. So that might be a lower estimate in terms of the correction. And also perhaps we have our weekly pivot at 1527, just above our yearly pivot. So both of those areas are likely areas for a pullback, but overall trend is well, at least the interim trend is now up, and we are looking for new targets and new highs. First of all, with a target at 1597, just short of that 16 Rand to the dollar target, and eventually I would like to see a target of 1657. That concludes this week's video. Thank you for watching, and until next time, we wish you all the best of your trading, and remember, trade smart and trade successful.